Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here and to share my experience. I was in a lot of your shoes maybe about a year ago, trying to figure out what to implement in my own course. Um, Again, my name is Amy Ip. I'm actually not a doctorate. I'm I'm just a lecturer, but I was in Cohort B and I'm part of the Department of Meteorology and Climate Science at San Jose State. And in spring of 2023, I taught MET 112 Global Climate Change, which, like you mentioned, it's an upper division GE. These numbers, 420 students in fall, and then 414 students in 2023, those are the entire group of MET 112. We have many sections, and in my section alone, it was 55 students. And the overall DFW rate is 5%. Well, as you heard earlier, it's an asynchronous online class, meaning that it's self-paced. Even though San Jose State has a great VR XR lab, the Kevlar lab, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, hopefully you will soon. I couldn't really enforce that they go to the lab because it's asynchronous and it's online, so they may be the students might be located in another part of the country. So I chose to implement a 360-degree video from YouTube. That way they can just, because they're already an online student, they already have access to the internet. So they can just use their laptop or their mobile device to look at the video. In prep time, I would estimate it took me about 8 to 12 hours to design the curriculum and find the appropriate video for the topic I wanted to teach them. So I structured the sequence of assignments as first a baseline quiz, then a video, the 360-degree video, and then a post-VR quiz. At least that's what my hope was. And I don't know if you had a chance, but these are the screenshots of my assignments. I'm happy to share them again if you need it. But I believe Vivian already posted it in your Canvas website, perhaps. So let me just get out of this part and share the survey. Can you see the questions? No?
I cannot see because that was the reason I emailed you because it's asking for San Jose State.
Okay. I mean, can you see the question now when I switch over here?
We just see the credential to sign in, the login page for San Jose State.
That's lovely. I'm sorry. So I try to log in the Qualtrics website, but it's down for some reason right now. I'll just tell you what it says. I asked them to enter their name and email, and then the first question I asked is in the baseline quiz is how confident they feel about extreme / severe weather events influenced by climate change, and then they rated their confidence from 0 to 10. What's 0 being not confident and 10 being very confident. But I will share the other questions in later slides, so hopefully that will work. Here, I'll just show the video. Can you see the video?
Yes.
Thank you. So it's just 3 minutes, but I think we can spin it around. And on the other side, it shows some facts. So it's pretty realistic looking. You can't, unfortunately, move beyond this point. I can just skip. So the next scenario is a drought, where they kind of show the heat wave or the shimmering of heat. And then ideally, the student would also read these texts. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. And then shows some fire. You can hear the fire crackling. This is the third scenario. Next one, the last one is just of this cryosphere, which is the frozen portion of Earth. It's generally like that. Here. These are just screenshots from the video if they didn't work. My backup plan. So then what I did for these results is that if the student chose the incorrect answer on the baseline quiz and then chose the first one or the correct one in the post VR quiz, then they improved. If they chose the same correct answer in both quizzes and it's still right, if they chose the same incorrect answer in the baseline and the post VR quiz and it's still wrong. If they chose the correct answer in the baseline quiz, but then chose the wrong answer in the post VR quiz, and it worsened. And that's what this means. So the first question is, the cryosphere continues to shrink with warming global temperatures, and most of them, well, almost everyone chose the correct answer for both quizzes. But I think this results partly because we already went over the cryosphere in the beginning. So it's not quite because of the VR activity itself. And then there's another question where most of the student responses were still right, and a lot were still wrong. This was a multiple choice question. And I'll show, not sure why that is. This one, most students after the VR video still got them wrong. It's like half and half. Same with this question, also multiple choice. And then the overall learning trend, because I took out two of the questions that didn't quite work. They were a little bit more ambiguous. My overall results was that didn't prove that the VR activity helped, and maybe actually didn't help at all. However, there's a couple of challenges from this module. It's possible that my questions I made weren't that clear, and being multiple choice, it's possible that the students clicked the wrong ones. The other thought I had was that these quizzes were too low stakes, so they weren't necessarily paying attention, perhaps. I just gave them credit if they participated and they attempted the quiz. The order of the quizzes, because it's an online asynchronous, I couldn't physically give them a quiz and make sure they completed it, the correct one. So it's also possible that they didn't do the correct order of quizzes. They did the post VR before the baseline. That would change the results. The other thought I had was, did the students actually navigate and open the video? Did they spin around and look around the environment, the virtual environment? And if they didn't, they wouldn't see the text that was being displayed. And also, do the students read all the text? And that, unfortunately, I can't gauge because I'm not there with them. So the very first question of each quiz I asked was I wanted to see how confident they are about weather events. And again, I took the post VR score minus the baseline score. And despite not necessarily choosing the right answer overall, almost all the students are confident or became more confident after the VR activity. And of the students who gave open comments, there were 18 of them. Almost all of them were positive, indicating that the VR activity is well received. And I want to share one direct quote from one of the students. I thought the experience being in VR made the situation feel more real and the consequences feel more imminent, which is really the whole purpose of global climate change, at least from my perspective. So some things I learned from doing this engagement is to be able to ensure students take the quizzes in the correct order. One way I'm thinking in doing that is instead of having a Qualtrics link, put it directly in Canvas, even if it, and then that might, I'm not quite sure, but I think Canvas has an ability that, okay, if they took this quiz, then they can move on to the next step. I would probably add instructions about viewing a 360 video, make sure that they do look around and not just stare at one place. Next time if I prepare the module in the same way, I might ask for more open-ended questions so that it's not just clicking an answer. And it might be worth exploring to make this a more higher stakes assessment. Some more general lessons I've learned is it's been a positive outcome. I mean, it shows I didn't share all the comments, but the students showed more engagement and they were more interested in topic, and some of them even reached at the emotional level, which, as I've learned, when students are learning and it's emotional, it's more engaging and they might retain the knowledge for a longer period of time. And also it's okay to attempt something new and start building from wherever you are. So I had an in-person class. I didn't make any slides for this, but I had an in-person class where I brought everybody to the Kevlar lab the semester before. It was for a different course, and that was more exploratory. And there was no really assignment structure with it. And from that I build onto this current module. And I also learned that it's probably best to ask for informed consent just to cover all your bases. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole trying to figure out where the boundaries of sharing student data is. And that's my takeaway. So for this module, I may change it in that I will start with a baseline quiz at the very beginning of the course just to see what kind of knowledge you come in with. And then, or in combination with doing an assessment at the very end of the course, adding final questions that are kind of embedded into it, instead of having a separate quiz just for the VR activity, or incorporating this into a project or maybe another kind of quiz. And thank you for listening. I'll take any questions or comments at this time.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone has questions?
I have a quick question, Amy. Was this an additional material that you were presenting them with, or was it replacing like a traditional 2D fixed location video?
Good question. I think this was a new module altogether. I was aiming to I coupled it with a severe weather lecture that came after the post VR quiz, so I would say it's kind of new instead of adding on to something that existing curriculum. But I've always wanted to present the severe weather topic, and this last semester was the first time I did it.
So Amy, about the asynchronous online course, that specific challenge that you mentioned, because you don't know whether they took the post quiz first or the pre-quiz first. I like what you came up with in the final slide that you mentioned. This is what you plan to do in the future to avoid that confusion. One is just to have it at the very beginning, and you don't release the post quiz when everybody complete the first quiz. So I think that will just solve the problem. I'm not sure, like if you have separate quiz, because I didn't see the quiz themselves, like for different topics, you have like fire, floods, and you have different subjects. If you were hoping that they would answer questions related to those specific topic at different time in the semester, when you're actually teaching those topics, or it's all bundled into one one quiz, because
Well,
it's all in one video.
yeah. So when this module opened, we put it all in one video. And at that point, I think the biggest topic we already covered was the ice, the cryosphere. I don't. Are you asking about what I hope to implement in the future, or?
Do you think it will help, like if you have you release the quizzes in small increments, like when you're touching on those subjects, you only release quiz questions related to those subjects, like in class, and then you have them watch the video, like the portion that's related to the subject, and then you move on to the next subject instead, because it's almost like if those are all the subjects you cover in the whole semester, then it's almost like a final kind of a quiz, right?
Yeah.
You're covering everything, and then some of the things they watched a while back may not be fresh to them anymore, and that could affect their answers.
That is true too.
Yeah.
This is, yeah.
In the I don't know if you asked this question. I think it's one of the things that you said you had less control of, is whether they actually went to the Clever lab, checked out a device, or they just did it on their phone. Do you know, like a percentage wise, the majority of the students just use their phone, or more like really interested in getting some hands-on experience with a VR device, so they actually checked out one? Or do you have any information about that?
No, but that's a great question to ask for the next quiz or the next survey. I know that no one contacted me about connecting with the Clever Lab, so I assume most likely that they did not go that route, and they didn't go in person to use actual VR equipment. But most likely they just did it on the laptop or the mobile device. Yeah, but that's a great question I can ask for the next survey, just to get that information.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of the things can be like concerns can be addressed, like with some planning ahead of time. For example, if you want students to go to the lab, and then you can have like a sign-up sheet, right? And just work with the lab. And if you worry that they're not really looking at the things, like there are like additional information, right? And on top of just the graphics, there are like these texts you want them to read, but you're not sure if they're actually reading those, paying attention to those. Maybe just send them over, like what we are doing with some of the faculty at Fresno State. That was from Cohort B. And now he wasn't doing this in the first round of pilot testing, but now again, this is the second time he's trying this. He felt that he wants students to be more familiar with the device, the technology, before he have them actually do the class assignment, the actual XR assignment. So he had students sign up with the student assistant like we have in the lab, and then just come in for maybe 20 minutes, just play with some apps, not the one he's going to use, but play with some apps, just be familiar with the device, be comfortable with it, and then the next time he sent them over is for the actual implementation, the actual assignment, and he expects to see. We haven't collected all the results yet, but I would think that it will be a much more smooth experience for students.
I agree, yes.
Yeah. And you can, during that intro session, like the first session, you can basically tell them, okay, these are the things you need to pay attention to, like reading the additional like information attached to the 360-degree video or images, or even their video links they need to watch. And sometimes when I did a virtual field trip for our entry-level course is a materials and methods class that was 3 years ago. And we had students collect data from the field, 360-degree images, videos, and then they put the whole tour together and put it on HoloBuilder. And then I asked students, I had a pre-test and a post-test, and I basically, first in the pre-test, I asked very similar questions like the fundamental knowledge about that subject. And then in that pre-test, I also provide instructions, like just to prepare them for the next, for the VR experience. And it basically shows them like what different symbols mean. Like some means that you need to click on this one, read the information, and go click this one, you get access to an image. Click this one, you get to a PDF document. So they know what means what. And then it's also very clear you have to complete this first before you can move on to the next one. Because actually, we tried these in 5 different classes in 2 different departments, and I'm obviously not the one who's teaching all the classes. I'm relying on other faculty members to implement that. So it is really important to have very clear instructions. Then students don't get confused. They're going to do the post quiz first, and also they would have at least have some basic knowledge of how to navigate 360-degree video and look for information. So that's just some suggestions.
Those are really great suggestions.
So Amy, I have a comment and a question for you. So it looks like you've got the classic, I implemented something new and it may have some hiccups that were experienced. And I think this is quite common for many of us when we're using new technology and you're doing the implementation, but there's some areas that can be optimized. You put up a slide, and if you'd be so kind to go back to the slide that showed your general statistics, that basically was a negative outcome for the use of the XR. So these are your overall learning trends.
Right.
And so, of course, the one that's most concerning to us is the 77, where there was a particular number of students who still got the particular answer wrong before and after the use of the XR. Am I understanding this statistic correctly?
It's the number of questions that were still wrong.
That were still wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm curious, now that you've seen the VR lesson be used, and then you've crafted your own questions based on the knowledge that you want, could there been any confusion strictly about terminology? Because you showed another slide based on the cryosphere, but I don't recall ever seeing the term cryosphere used within the VR app. And I know students can quite easily confuse terminology if it's not addressed and used in a similar manner. And I see this in chemistry, physics, and engineering when terminology is not consistent across science and engineering. And what I would ask you is, if we are to use a off-the-shelf VR experience, should we use the exact same terms that are there within that VR environment to reduce the chances of confusion?
I think that would help. If you're trying to assess directly the effect of the VR implementation, then you're right, using the actual wording from that video in my example, would probably help you decide, okay, this was effective, or this might help you see if it's how effective it is. Yeah, Carlosphere was a term I introduced much earlier in the course. We'll talk at length about it. And I wonder if that's why they retained it and still got this question correctly, or is it because it's a true false question? And so you're 50% right or wrong.
And overall, the students still maintained a majority of them were getting it correct. But it's kind of interesting that 5 of them worsened, which means
Right.
that everybody got it right the first time, but then that they might have like gone through it quickly and got it wrong just because they were just doing it so fast.
That could be it, yeah. Or
So
they did
one
it in order.
One of the things that I did in the assessment with my use of VR is I allowed the students, it was for credit, 10 points, but I let them do it as many times as they wanted. With the grand idea of everybody, if they really care, should get 10 out of 10. And you would be unsurprised at how many times the students would take it in order to obtain that, that 10 out of 10. And in the process, that required them to remain in the VR environment for longer and to engage with the technology for an extended period of time as well. Because what's nice when we do have the assessment embedded at the same time as they're in the immersive environment, then they can kind of use that as a part of the quiz. And maybe even if this was done on a laptop, you've got one tab open in Canvas, you've got another tab open in YouTube that's looking at the VR experience, the 360 experience. And so maybe, like a test run where you've got 2 windows open and you're using the VR 360, and then you're kind of thinking about what kind of assessment should be done in the other tab. And it doesn't have to just be that 3 minutes. Maybe there's some other modules that are available from that same outfit that can help complement your learning objectives.
Yeah. That's an interesting module design.
Yeah, and I had to do the same thing where I took something off the shelf and I just had to kind of freestyle it and pivot to make sure that the assessment that I wanted was still relevant. And so we have to be creative at that stage. And I think you've done an excellent job.
Thank you. Hopefully we learned something.
Yeah, I hope, Amy, you'll continue trying this out in this class. You mentioned that you're interested in doing this one more time this year, right?
Yeah, I have a few more weeks and I can try to adjust it so we can try this out also.
And Amy, don't forget, in DH17 in my lab, I have a whole bunch of the headsets that hold cell phones. I have 70 of them.
Thank you.
And you could go in and let's say you needed to get 30 of them or 40 of them. You can take those on a cart and then get those to your students and have them sign out. They're already pre-labeled and everything. And then you just take your cell phone, run the VR experience, and put it inside of the headset.
Yeah, just trying to figure out the logistics of it.
It's a little bit of a pain, but you can do it within several hours, or you can have the students pick up the headsets from, say, like office hours.
Yeah, in person definitely makes it easier compared to online asynchronous.
I agree.
Actually, still
Thank you for sharing, Amy.
welcome. Anytime.
Thank you. Just so everybody knows, as part of the cohort, each of the cohort, we expect cohort members to share their experience with us one way or another. We have many opportunities, even moving forward, like for the current cohort. Actually, Frank is here. So we actually tentatively circled a date for a webinar through STEMnet. That's April 12th. Is Frank here?
Frank is here, I believe. He's on the
Hi,
list.
Vivian.
Vivian,
Yes.
hi Vivian, how are you?
Good. I was just mentioning, the specific programming details we're not talking about that right now. We'll share that later. But just heads up that next in April 2024, we're planning for a webinar through the CSU STEMnet Chancellor's Office. We will have representatives from each cohort to share a little bit about their XR experience through this project. And also, we already decided on the date for our final symposium that will be in person in Fresno. That's May 31st. Both dates are Friday. So we're hoping that all of you will be available like May 31st. That's after the long holiday. We're hoping that there will be no conflicts with most of your schedule and you can all visit us here on campus and then share your experience with a larger community that are interested in XR experience. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I think we're gonna do some breakout room sessions and really just to check on our status right now. And basically, we wanted to know your answers to these 3 questions. Are you on track with the XR implementation as planned? And what challenges have you encountered? And what support do you need to help with the XR implementation? So I'll have Abe, if he hasn't yet, share the presentation link in the chat. So we have 3 rooms and we'll open 3 rooms, but we're going to do it by school. So create 3 breakout rooms and I'll let participants choose room, but basically first room is for Fresno State, Fresno City College faculty, and then second room is for San Jose State faculty, and third room is for Sonoma State faculty, and you all have your own Jamboard to work on, and you can post answers to those specific questions. And we will, the project team, we will stop by each room and just chat with you all. So we have a better sense of where everybody is and how we can help you with a successful implementation either later this semester or even in spring.
Vivian, do we have link to the Jamboard?
Okay, I thought Abe was doing that. Okay, let me share that.
Thank you.
Let me share
Do because that that link was lost in my email. Thank you.
Okay, let me do it. Anyone with a link, copy link, and then.
Yeah, I had it earlier, Vivian. I apologize.
No problem. Here is the slides link. Should all be able to access it. And specifically, I could also just post room 1. I'll post that link in the chat as well. This is room 1. And this is room 2. And lastly, we have room 3. So Jackie, you're not in any of the breakout room yet, and also Virginia.
I don't see an invitation to join one.
Oh, really? I opened the rooms. Let me,
Oh, okay, wait, I see it now. Okay.
you see it? Okay. Virginia, you need to be in, do you want me to move you to room 1? Room 1. And Woon Ki will also be room 1. Okay. Amy, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. If you could send me the surveys in PDF, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes. As soon as the
Thank you.
website works.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.